千里之行，始于足下。A journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath the feet. We now gather in the Tao to travel the journey together. Welcome to Tao Talks with Derek Lin, where we take a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching by Lao Tzu. As always, I want to extend my welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. I would like to invite you to center your thoughts and direct your attention to this moment in time, to the here and now, to be fully present and mindfully aware as we are ready ourselves for this sacred process in the Tao with one another. So I want to bring out some of those categories, and I have to say there are so many categories of things that we should not say, or should say less, that it is very easy to fill out a list of a couple dozen categories, each one distinct from the other. To illustrate that, I will just take a partial view. I will just take some of them, and I want to illustrate that it's not difficult at all to fill out the initial letters of the alphabet. The slide is not big enough for us to accommodate all the alphabets, but we can do the first dozen or so. So what are some of these words that we should reduce, that we should decrease? A would be arrogant words. So this would be bragging. This would be drawing attention to yourself, hogging the spotlight. This is referenced in a future chapter, Tao Te Ching Chapter 30, as well as other chapters that talk about bragging being contrary to the Tao. In real life applications, this is something that we see quite a bit because we do encounter people who are egotistical from time to time, arrogant people who talk about themselves all the time. In the workplace setting, we also see people trying to claim credit for something good that was done. For the Tao cultivator, the appropriate thing to do, if someone was in a leadership position and something good has been accomplished, the person aware of the Tao will give credit to the team. That it's not the manager or the supervisor who was the one that did it, but it was the team that all pulled together, everybody pulled together, and everybody produced the great results. And here's the interesting thing that I have observed in life. The arrogant people who claim credit, they end up being seen as the one who should not take any credit. Whereas the wise manager or supervisor who gives credit to the team, invariably that person is seen as an excellent manager or supervisor who was responsible for keeping the team together to produce that great result. And therefore, credit goes to him or her. So uttering arrogant words has the opposite effect in real life as the intention. The intention is to hog the spotlight, but it ends up being the very opposite. Then, category B, beautiful words. This is referenced in the last chapter of the Tao Te Ching that says beautiful words are not true. Specifically, this is talking about lies. When we say beautiful lies, lies that sound really good, but just aren't true. And it can also be like a half-truth, something that is technically truth, but uttered to be misleading, to let people draw the wrong conclusion. Or flattery. Flattery sounds really good, sounds pleasant, sounds great to the ears, but if it's a flattering remark, it may be based on a falsehood. So beautiful words. Category B. What about C? Well, C is easy. C, critical words, criticism, condemnation that lead to contention. All C words. And this is referenced in the Tao Te Ching as well. For instance, in chapter 4 of the Tao Te Ching, it talks about blunting the sharpness. The sharpness is what is used as a metaphor. The sharp edge of a blade is metaphoric of the sharp criticism that we use on one another. So that is also something to be avoided, something to decrease. Even when there is a necessity to be critical, the Tao cultivator understands the importance of using diplomacy to convey the criticism, to make it constructive. Category D, dogma, dogmatic words. These are absolute, inflexible statements contrary to the Tao. The Tao is about life. Life is about being flexible. Therefore, being inflexible is more associated with death. So this is definitely something that is addressed multiple times whenever the Tao Te Ching talks about the power of the soft. It is referring to this. To be dogmatic is to have that inflexibility, permitting no other interpretation. And these are universal statements like always, never, all, etc. One of the noted figures in American history, Benjamin Franklin, was lauded as a skillful diplomat. And when he talked about what he did, he would always emphasize that there are few certainties in life, except death and taxes. So when he expressed himself, he would always be careful to say things like, it seems to me that, I imagine it to be so and so, rather than to make a dogmatic, inflexible, absolute statement that leaves no room for someone to contradict you or for you to have made a mistake unwittingly. So being dogmatic is opposed to the Tao. Being flexible, being diplomatic will be aligned with the Tao. So what about category E? Here we have empty words. Empty words are referenced in Tao Te Ching Chapter 22. These are the words that carry no meaning because they are redundant, they are unnecessary. And when we speak with too many words, a certainty is that many of the words we use are going to be fillers. That is, words that can be taken out without affecting the meaning. Think about the following phrase. This is just something that I made up. A phrase that goes like this. First of all, I am thinking to myself that it's a difficult situation, but nevertheless, you should choose among 3 options. Now, there are actually quite a few fillers in that phrase. When you say, first of all, you could simply say first, and that conveys it. When you say, I am thinking to myself, we hear that a lot from people, but you can't really think to anyone else except yourself. Rather than to say, I am thinking to myself, it is better to simply say, I think. That's it. That conveys your meaning. It is similar when you say things like, I nodded my head. Well, you can't really nod anything else. You can say, I nodded, and that's it. And you can say things like, hey, listen, there's a possibility that you may potentially regret your decision. We hear that quite a bit. Well, that can be simplified greatly. You may regret your decision. Potentially becomes a filler word, extraneous, unnecessary. And you don't even have to say there is a possibility. Simply by saying you may, that covers it. So we human beings use a lot of these unnecessary empty words. It is something to watch out for. Typically, people don't pay attention to that, but a Tao cultivator would start paying attention to saying things that are redundant or unnecessary or empty. Now, the F category, frivolous words. This is referenced as being light, lightness. Tao Te Ching Chapter 26, Chapter 63 all point to it. To be frivolous, to treat things too lightly, just means that you're saying things that are inconsiderate, that you haven't thought about, that you've made a promise too quickly, too lightly, without serious intent. The problem with frivolous words is that you haven't really thought about it. You haven't really made that promise with sincerity, and therefore the guarantees or promises will be quickly broken. And when you break those promises, those guarantees, your credibility becomes eroded. So that is only to the negative for yourself. And what about category G? Well, that's easy. Gossip, unverified words, rumors, hearsay that can spread like wildfire. There's particular emphasis on this in Tao cultivation. Tao masters since ancient times have recognized the tremendous power of falsehoods spread as rumors. So we'll talk about that. Let me cover category H, hurtful words. Words that are said with specific intent to exploit a vulnerability. What do I mean by that? What I mean is people are very good at finding other people's buttons to push. You know, once you get to know someone, you know what to say to really hurt that person. That is a dark truth about humanity, but we see it all the time. We especially know what to say to hurt someone we know well, like a loved one. So the hurtful words are oftentimes uttered in a family setting, to your loved ones, to the people you know best of all. But if we practice compassion, should we really be uttering the hurtful words? We know what they are. And lastly, the I category, interrupting words, cutting people off mid-sentence, speaking out of turn to cut people short. Now, I find many examples of this from daily life, people cutting other people short all the time. And I specifically found instances in my life where we had at the workplace setting, I saw and witnessed people who cut other people short. In one case, it was someone cutting off a manager, a supervisor short in mid-sentence. And this person was doing it all the time. Initially, I was puzzled, but later on, I could see that it was because this person wanted to impress his manager. He wanted to show how quick he was, that he grasped the problem immediately. But then, because of the interruption, it actually produced the very opposite effect because it made him seem desperate. I have also seen it in the opposite scenario where a manager is cutting off someone below his level, and it became clear after a while that it was because the manager was insecure and wanted to avoid having the person below that level showcase talents that were above him. And this had the opposite effect as well, because people quickly saw through that and realized how insecure he was. Now, that's just the workplace scenario. The same thing applies to a social situation as well as family. When you cut people off, you may be intending to do something. You had a particular purpose for cutting that person off, but I think chances are excellent that you will achieve the very opposite effect. And therefore, that makes this contrary to the Tao as well. The summary for today is to be aligned with the Tao, starting with the realization that the Tao is inexhaustible. It is infinite. The more you use it, the more there is to use. Therefore, the more we cultivate, the more skillfully we can use more of it. Number two, cultivate humility. We can be more capable and humble at the same time, much like the Tao is able to do everything and says nothing. Number three, we can observe those who speak too much, and we see the truth in the words of Lao Tzu, that too many words hasten failure. We can observe the negative consequences that people who speak too much bring upon themselves, and we can learn from that. Speak less and do more. By watching what we say, we can find peace and contentment in the silence of the Tao. Oftentimes, we don't need to talk really all that much. Our meeting has come to an end, but the journey continues on. Until next time, may the Tao fill you with peace and happiness.